Hey guys, welcome back to another Star Wars lore video. This is my first time ever, and we're going to be talking about Darth Traya, Darth Sion, Visas Marr, and Darth Nihilus, and their importance in the Old Republic. And that's just going to be a really good background information. It's going to be a lore kind of story about all three of the Sith, as well as Visas Marr, and their importance in the history of Star Wars, as well as theory crafting later on in the video at the end. I have to say I did work really hard on this video, so if you could drop a like early, it helps it get out there to people who are curious about these characters, and it also helps the channel a lot. And if you guys like what I'm doing, just subscribe and turn on those notifications. Also join my Discord server, as it was a big part of why I made this video. So guys, let's jump right into this. Darth Sion was a Sith. There's not much background about him, but he basically became an embodiment of pain. He liked pain because he thought himself as a strong person, and he wanted to survive and continue growing through the Force. So he became convinced he was immortal as he built up greater and greater tolerance for pain. Eventually Sion was struck down, but he did not die. Instead, the pain within him welled up to agonizing levels, driving Sion to rise once more and strike down his would-be killer with all of his anger and hate. Sion found that he could hold his own decomposing body together with the dark side of the Force. Though this process brought him extreme amount of pain and forced him to continuously concentrate on his rage, Sion considered it a worthy price for immortality. A new Sith Empire was formed by Darth Revan and Darth Malachor, who was his apprentice at the time, and Sion became a Sith Lord of the Empire. Yet, this was not to last too long either, as Sion was shocked when Revan turned from the dark side to the light side. Sion saw this as weakness and betrayal to the Sith Order. Malachor was killed by Revan, and with his death, the Empire basically came apart. Sion was at the Sith Academy on Korriban on its final days, as he watched as the Sith turned on one another. Sion survived this, despite the backstabbing. With the disintegration of the Empire, a number of the Sith Lords declared themselves to be warlords of their own domains, while others fled to the unknown regions. There were other Sith Lords at work in the galaxy with their own plans. One was Revan's former Jedi Master Traya, who had taken the name Darth Traya. Traya searched for wounds in the Force and found Darth Sion and another Sith Lord named Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger. Sion, the Lord of Pain, Traya, the Lord of Betrayal, and Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger, allied to the secretive Sith Triumvirate, each being lords of their respective domains, based out on Malachor 5. Their goal was the annihilation of the Jedi Order and restoration of the Sith to power. Traya became the master of both Sith Lords, and Sion learned much from her. Darth Nihilus learned to eat planets entirely from her teachings. There was discontent among the Triumvirate, though. Sion and Nihilus had ambition beyond that of Traya, and their fragile alliance, united solely by the hatred of the Jedi, grew strained. Sion furthermore grew tired of Traya's instruction, the abstractness of her teachings, and the way her words seemed to echo in his skull. Eventually, he and Nihilus conspired to remove her. While Traya meditated in the Academy's core, Sion and Nihilus closed in on her. Sion beat her mercilessly. The two sapped her energy before Darth Nihilus stripped her of the Force and Traya was cast out. Now in sole command, Sion and Nihilus continued their work, relying heavily on the Malachor-based Sith assassin originally founded by Revan. Sion went on a spree of Jedi assassination. He was murdered a couple times, but of course he came back and came to murder those who tried to kill him. By the end of Sion's campaign, the Jedi were almost extinct entirely. 3,954 BBY, Sion and Darth Nihilus united the majority of the Sith Empire remnants, becoming the most unified force of the Sith in their time. In 3,952 BBY, Nihilus attacked a Jedi conclave at Qatar, killing many of the surviving Jedi Order. The Order publicly disbanded. The remaining Jedi went into hiding to escape Sion's assassins and the two Dark Lords of the Sith. As the Jedi fell, one remained outside known space, a knight named Mitra Surik, who had been an outcast of the Order and exiled for following Revan in the Mandalorian Wars. Surik was special because she had a very strong concentration of midichlorians in the Force, and she was basically the equal to Sion and Revan for the light side. As the rumors spread that Surik was the last of the Jedi, Sion and Nihilus were determined to finishing the Order once and for all. Sion studied her, where she had gone to exile in the battles in which she had fought in the war. Nihilus was responsible for the devastation of the planet Qatar, killing and absorbing the Force energy of the Jedi at the Conclave on Qatar, along with every living thing on the world, except he would save one woman, named Visas Marr. Marr was collected from the surface, and Nihilus began to train her as his shadow hand. 1 year later, Nihilus sensed a growing presence in the Force and sent Marr to eliminate it. That presence was a female Jedi, Mitra Surik, who was on a quest to find the few Jedi Masters who survived the Purge. When Marr attempted to assassinate the woman, however, Surik defeated her and convinced her to turn back to the light side in the process. Although Nihilus returned to lurking the fringes of known space, he was eventually tricked by Traya into initiating the Battle of Talos IV in an attempt to absorb a Jedi Academy that lacked any Force sensitives aside from the headmistress. Nihilus met a large Republic and Mandalorian fleet at Talos that distracted him. Meanwhile, his flagship, the Ravager, was secretly boarded by a small force consisting of Surik, Marr, Mandalore the Preserver, and his Mandalorians. The trio confronted and slew Nihilus in the ensuing duel, while the Mandalorians rigged explosives that destroyed the ship. The Sith Lord's armor maintained his spirit, and he was collected for burial on the homeworld of Korriban, where his soul could be contacted with the holocron of his own creation. After an encounter between Sion and Surik, Sion warned Surik that Traya, who was at the time Darth Traya, would destroy her in time, as he felt his former master had done to him. They fought, but even as Surik injured Sion, he called upon the Force to restore his health. Traya at last called to Surik in the Force, telling her that it was not the battle she could win. Surik fled to the academy, and Sion, feeling a measure of respect for her, let her go, ordering his assassins not to harm her. He expected that they would meet again soon, and Sion felt emotional love for Surik. After Sion returned to Malachor V, he was rejoined on that world by Traya, who had betrayed Surik, reclaimed her title of Darth Traya, and led Darth Nihilus to his death. After eliminating Sion's assassins, Traya found him in the Traya's core. Sion threatened to kill her, but Traya claimed that she had returned because she now understood Surik's choices, bent him to her will, and made him prepare for the arrival of Surik. Traya commanded Sion that when Surik arrived at the Traya's academy, he would show her every measure of respect. Eventually, she came to Malachor in search of Traya, and after fighting her way through the Sith forces of the academy, Surik at last came face to face with Sion. He cautioned her to leave, warning her that Traya would break her as she had Sion. Believing that Traya could not be defeated, Sion concluded that if Surik were to deny herself to Traya, Traya would have no choice but to accept Sion's loyalty again. He considered himself to have come further than any of her former apprentices, including Revan, and had decided that his initial betrayal was a test that he had passed. With words exhausted, Surik and Sion at last fought. Surik struck down Sion, but with the power of the dark side of Malachor flowing through him, he rose again. Once more they fought, and once more he fell. Surik tried to persuade Sion that Traya did not have respect for him and was using him as a tool, but Sion claimed that if he killed Surik, Traya would have to complete his training as her true apprentice. As they continued their fight, Sion saw Surik's strength, but still believed himself capable of defeating her. As she struck him down a fourth time, Sion remained defiant. Surik told him that he had already been defeated, and she explained that Traya had only respected those who could let go in the Force, not like Sion, who relied on it. Sion, who had not thought it possible to walk away from it, was forced by Surik's words to realize that life of pain that he had given himself was ultimately one of permanent weakness and dependence instead of power. In his last moments, Sion warned Surik that Traya would break her, and he told her that she was Traya's weakness, just as she had been his. Finally at peace and glad to leave the living world behind him at last, Sion allowed himself to die. By giving up that pain and therefore the Force, Sion was able to finally die, but not before warning Surik that Traya would try to do her what she had done to Sion himself. Surik found Traya in the core of the academy. After trying to reason with her, Surik and Traya engaged in a duel, which ended with Surik slicing her remaining hand off. The other one was sliced off by Sion. Traya tried to convince Surik to kill her, but she refused. Angered, Traya used the Force to control 3 lightsabers against Surik, but the Jedi bested all 3 lightsabers. Before dying from the wounds dealt to her by Surik, Traya chose to honor her with one last gift, drawing upon the Force that radiated from Malachor V and casting a prediction of both the future of the galaxy and that of Surik's friends. Traya told Surik that she hoped that she would follow Revan's path, but said that Surik and Revan were different. Traya said that Surik and Revan could fall to the unknown regions, or take one of the ships in Malachor's orbit and depart the planet, or remain on Malachor to wait for the others, those who were touched by the Force, who would come in time. Traya also said that Surik could also return to her exile, where her presence could no longer affect the action of others, and said that there was no dishonor in any of those choices, asking Surik to make her choice without any regret. After Surik told her that she would follow Revan, as she did a decade before, Traya finally surrendered her life to what she once despised, the Force. Her body was destroyed shortly after, along with Malachor V, when the mass shadow generator was activated for the last time. So that is it for the lore of the characters. Now, if you want to get into more specific, like if you're asking what is the mass shadow generator, That's just the weapon that was a super weapon, kind of like the Death Star, that made Darth Nihilus who he was. There's a couple other plot holes in there. Like, if you don't know much about Revan, I'll make another video about Revan when he comes out in the game, because he's probably going to come out in the game. And that's really all I've got. I mean, it's a really cool lore. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of all over the place with this. But I hope that gives you an idea of who Sion was. He was a guy who loved pain. He needed pain. He thought the dying was weak. Traya was a super manipulative person, kind of like Palpatine, just very smart, and also, teetered back from light and dark side, like Visas Marr. Visas Marr was a Sith assassin, and then she switched sides. So it's pretty interesting that's the lore, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. It took a really long time to make, guys, because I got to do the audio and everything. So if you drop a like, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, that's all I got. So I hope you enjoyed it. Light Side Territory Battles Guide is coming out soon. If you're new here, subscribe, man. Thanks so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.